Questions. My friends, life is a strange journey. Some days you wake up and the world feels like a flower bouquet. Other days the world feels like the thorn that bouquet was standing on. Questions. We all go through pain, heartbreak, betrayal, stress, loneliness, financial struggle, health worries. And when pain hits, the first instinct is questions. Let me tell someone. But here is the truth: not everyone who listens cares. Not everyone who cares understands. Not everyone who understands helps. And not everyone who helps stays. Questions. Pain is sacred. Pain is delicate. Pain is personal. Treat it like your password. You don't share it with everyone on the street. In life, there are two kinds of people. Questions. Rain, people, those who run away when it pours. Umbrella, people, those who stand with you even if they get wet. If you share your pain with rain people, questions, they'll vanish faster than free Fi in a crowded railway station. But if you share it with umbrella people, they'll hold you together even when you're falling apart. The problem is questions. In a moment of emotional weakness, we can't differentiate who is who. So we tell our pain to everyone and end up getting more pain in return. Questions. A tree that stands strong does not depend on every passing cloud to give it shade. Its roots give it strength. Don't depend on the approval of random people to soothe your pain. Questions. Because some people love to hear your story, not to support you, but to spread it. Pain becomes gossip in the wrong ears. The world doesn't need to know your wounds. Your soul does. Questions. I'm not asking you to suffer in silence. I'm asking you to choose wisely. A wise person shares pain with questions. Someone trustworthy, someone experienced, someone emotionally mature, someone who genuinely wishes your growth, not questions. Social media, temporary friends, people who get happy when you're sad, people who will judge, compare. Questions. Lecture or manipulate your vulnerability. You must understand this. Your pain shared with the wrong person becomes your weakness. Your pain shared with the right person becomes your strength. Questions. Pain is like fire. You can burn your house with it, or you can cook food with it. Most people unknowingly burn themselves because they don't know how to handle emotional fire. Questions. Don't share your pain casually. Sit with it, observe it, understand it, transform it. If you keep telling everyone your pain, you're only reliving it. If you reflect on it quietly, questions, you're outgrowing it. Sympathy feels good temporarily, but silence makes you stronger permanently. When you sit with your own heart quietly, questions, a magical thing happens. That pain which was shouting inside you starts whispering wisdom. Your tears wash away attachment. Your silence grows your strength. Your wounds carve your wisdom. Questions. Sometimes silence is not loneliness, it's inner construction work. Have you ever noticed? When you share your pain with some people, they compare it or questions. That's nothing, let me tell you my problems. Or they judge you, maybe it's your fault. Or they minimize it. Questions. You're overthinking, just chill. A pain shared with the wrong audience becomes frustration. So don't share your pain with everyone. Share it with those who have earned that right. Questions. When humans don't understand your pain, give it to the one who created you. Sometimes the best listener is questions. A blank page, a quiet temple, a peaceful morning walk, a silent prayer, a mindful breath. The safest place for your pain is your own heart until you find someone safe enough to hold it. Questions. Your strength increases when you can carry your own storms. It doesn't mean staying silent forever. It means being emotionally self-sufficient. Questions. The people who truly win in life are not the ones who had zero pain, but the ones who learn to handle their pain with grace. When you become emotionally strong, people can't manipulate you. Questions. Discourage you or control you. When you tell someone your pain, tell them after you have processed it. Instead of, I'm broken, say questions. I was broken and I learned something. Your story will uplift others, not burden them. People connect more with your recovery than your wounds. Remember, questions. Pain is a teacher sent to change you. If you spend all your time narrating your pain to others, you will miss the lesson. But if you quietly learn from it, you'll come out wiser, calmer, questions, stronger, and sometimes unrecognizable. Your pain is not your enemy. Oversharing is. My dear friends, your pain is a delicate flower. Don't let the wrong hands crush it. Hold it gently. Questions. Grow through it. Share it only with those who water it. And remember, you don't owe everyone your pain, but you owe yourself the strength that pain will give you. Questions. Never share your pain with everyone. Share it only with the ones who make your soul feel safe. Thank you. Questions. Pain is not just an emotion, it is an experience that shapes us, molds us, and sometimes even redefines us. It is like a delicate flower that blooms in the darkness. Fragile, precious, questions, and deeply personal. And because it is personal, it deserves careful handling. Imagine if you had a diamond in your hand, you wouldn't pass it around to every stranger on the street. Questions, because you know its value. In the same way, your pain is a diamond of experience, rare, valuable, and deserving of protection. In life, questions. Many people speak about their pain the way some people talk about the weather. Casually, carelessly, without understanding its impact. But pain is not like telling someone it might rain today. Questions. Pain is a part of your heart, and your heart is not a public announcement system. When you share your pain casually with everyone, questions, you unknowingly give pieces of your emotional energy to people who may not respect it, understand it, or even care about it. Think of those moments when something hurt you deeply, maybe a betrayal, questions, a rejection, or a disappointment, and in that vulnerable moment, you told someone expecting comfort. But instead of comfort, what did you get? A lecture, a judgment, a comparison, questions, or worse, your pain became a topic of gossip. You felt even more hurt than before, not because of the original pain, but because you shared it with the wrong person. Questions. This is why pain must be shared selectively, not because you must hide, but because you must protect. Imagine you hurt your foot. Would you allow anyone and everyone to touch it? No. Questions. You would only allow a trained doctor or someone you trust deeply. Your emotional wounds deserve the same logic. Why let just anyone poke your pain? Why let inexperienced people advise you? Questions. Insensitive people judge you, or curious people pry into your wounds. Sharing pain casually is like opening the door of your home to every passerby. Some will come in respectfully, questions, but others might leave muddy footprints all over your floor. And your heart is not a place for muddy footprints. There are people who genuinely care, but not everyone does. Questions. Some people listen only to compare their own struggles. Some listen to judge. Some listen to feel superior. Some listen because human suffering entertains them more than human happiness. Sad but true. Questions. Daily life teaches us this again and again. Think of the time you posted something emotional on social media. How many real solutions did you get? How many genuine hearts reached out? Maybe one or two. Questions. The rest, silent observers. Some curious, some amused, some indifferent. Because the world does not value your pain as much as you do. Pain shared with the wrong person becomes cheap. Questions. Pain shared selectively becomes meaningful. Picture this: you had a rough day at work. Your boss shouted at you. Colleagues laughed behind your back. You came home feeling defeated. Questions. Now imagine telling this to someone who doesn't care. They might say, chill, it's normal, or happens to everyone. That response doesn't heal you. It invalidates you. Questions. But sharing it with someone who loves you, your closest friend, your mentor, your spiritual guide, feels different. They don't dismiss your emotions. They help you see your strength. Questions. They help you learn from the experience. They help you grow. This is what selective sharing does. It turns pain into progress. Sharing selectively also teaches emotional maturity. Questions. You learn to differentiate between people who drain you and people who build you, between listeners who want details and listeners who want to help. Questions. Between people who are curious about your pain and people who are concerned about your heart. In daily life, you'll notice this difference when you speak. Questions. If you tell someone your struggle and their first reaction is about them, not you, that's not your person. If you tell someone you're hurt and their reaction makes you feel worse, not lighter. Questions. That's not your person. If you tell someone your fears and they use them against you later, that was never your person. Your pain is not meant for people who see it as drama. Questions. Your pain is not meant for people who use it as a weakness. Your pain is not meant for people who enjoy the story more than understanding the storyteller. Questions. Your pain is meant for people who respect your silence, value your emotions, and protect your vulnerability. A simple example, when a child falls and gets hurt. Questions. They don't run to every adult in the house. They run to the one person they trust the most. Why? Because instinctively, they know who will comfort them. As adults, we forget this instinct. Questions. We tell our wounds to anyone who will listen, even those who have no intention of wiping our tears. Your heart knows who deserves your pain. Listen to it. Questions. Pain is sacred because it teaches you something no book, no teacher, no guru can teach. Pain brings wisdom, clarity, strength, and depth, but only when handled with care. Questions. So don't give your pain away cheaply. Don't make it a public conversation. Don't let the world mishandle your emotional treasures. Questions. Share your pain selectively, only with those who can hold it gently and help you rise from it. That is how pain becomes growth, not burden. That is how pain becomes strength, not story. Questions. That is how pain becomes sacred. Questions. Life teaches us one subtle but powerful lesson. Just because someone hears you doesn't mean they truly listen. And even if they listen, it doesn't mean they understand. And even if they understand. Questions. It doesn't mean they care. This truth becomes clearer the more we grow, especially when we go through pain. When something hurts us deeply, our instinct is to speak, to share, to vent. Questions. We hope that someone will understand our pain the way we feel it, and maybe even care enough to help us through it. But very often, the reality surprises us. Questions. Not everyone who watches the rain knows how cold it feels. Not everyone who sees your tears knows what they cost you. Imagine you're standing in the rain without an umbrella. People may look at you. Questions. Make comments or feel pity for a moment, but only a few will actually come forward to hold an umbrella over your head. The rest look and walk away. Questions. That's how the world responds to pain. Many notice it, few truly help. Think about the last time you shared something painful with someone. Maybe you told a colleague about a stressful day. Questions. And instead of understanding your exhaustion, they replied with, "You think that's bad. You should hear what happened to me." Suddenly, your pain becomes a competition. Questions. You were looking for connection, but instead, the conversation turned into a comparison. Or recall when you confided in someone about a personal struggle. Instead of listening with empathy. Questions. They offered quick, careless advice. Just get over it. Stop thinking too much, or everyone goes through this. They heard your words, but they didn't understand your heart. Questions. Pain isn't about logic, it's about emotion, and not everyone is emotionally equipped to hold your pain with care. Understanding requires sensitivity, experience, and depth. Caring requires hard questions, compassion, and sincerity. These qualities aren't common. We meet many people in life. Questions. But very few have the emotional maturity to understand what we're going through and the emotional kindness to support us. Did you ever tell someone something painful? Questions. And later you found they used it against you. That is the biggest sign that they heard your pain, but they never cared. if someone can turn your vulnerability into a weapon. Questions. They never deserved your honesty in the first place. Not everyone is meant to sit in the front row of your emotional life. Some people only want the highlights of your story, not the struggles. Questions. They enjoy the interesting parts, the dramatic parts, the funny parts, but they don't want to be there when you're falling apart in the middle of the night, questioning everything. Questions. They prefer the entertainment, not the truth. In daily life, you can notice who understands and who doesn't by the quality of their responses. Questions. There are people who respond to your pain with silence, not because they don't care, but because they are listening deeply. Questions. And then there are people who respond instantly, not because they know what to say, but because they feel uncomfortable handling your emotions. Think of a time you were hurt and someone simply said, questions. I'm here for you, not giving solutions, not asking unnecessary questions, not judging you, just holding space for you. That I'm here is understanding. That I'm here is care. Questions. Now think of another moment you were hurting and someone said, questions. It's your fault. Or, why are you so sensitive? Or, I don't have time for this. That response didn't heal you. It broke you further. Questions. This is why it's important to know the difference between someone who listens to respond and someone who listens to understand. Let's take a daily example. Questions. You buy a new pair of shoes that hurt your feet. You go around telling people how painful it was. Some will say, why did you buy them then? Some will say, questions. All shoes hurt initially. Some will laugh, but someone who truly understands will say, must have been uncomfortable. Questions. Change them before your feet get blisters. That person doesn't just listen. They empathize. Emotional pain works the same way. When you tell someone about a heartbreak and they say, questions. Move on. They have heard you, but they have not felt your wound. When you tell someone about a family issue and they say, everyone has problems, they reduce your pain to generalization. Questions. When you tell someone about your fears and they say, stop thinking too much, they are dismissing your emotional reality. And here's the saddest part. Questions. Sometimes the people you expect to understand you the most understand you the least. And the people you expect nothing from end up caring the most. Understanding doesn't come from closeness. Questions. It comes from depth. Caring doesn't come from words. It comes from intention. You will meet people who talk sweetly but act coldly. And you will meet people who speak less but love deeply. Questions. Not everyone who listens is listening with their heart. Some are listening with curiosity. Some with impatience, some with judgment, some with boredom, and a rare few with compassion. Questions. Your emotional world is not a podcast for public listening. Your pain is not an open invitation for everyone to give opinions. Your vulnerability is not a free ticket for people to enter your life. Questions. Choose those who listen with kindness, not criticism. Choose those who understand without explanation. Choose those who care without being asked. Because at the end of the day, questions, it doesn't matter how many people heard your pain. What matters is how many held your pain gently. Not everyone who listens will understand or care, and that's okay. Questions. It only means you must value the rare souls who do. Questions. In every person's life, there comes a season of storms. Moments when the winds of stress, sorrow, heartbreak, and confusion blow so hard that you feel you may fall apart. Questions. It is during these storms that you discover the true faces of people around you. Some disappear the moment dark clouds gather. Some pretend to stay but slowly step away when the rain gets heavier. Questions. And then there are the rare few, the umbrella people, who stand beside you, shielding you, comforting you, and walking with you even if they get wet in the process. Questions. These people don't just show up when the sun is out. They show up when the sky is gray, when the world feels heavy, when you're emotionally drenched. They don't come to judge, to question questions, or to gossip. They come with an umbrella of kindness, empathy, loyalty, and genuine care. Think about rainfall. If you are alone in the rain, it feels cold, uncomfortable, questions, and overwhelming. But if someone stands next to you holding an umbrella, even if the storm continues, you suddenly feel safer, warmer, and lighter. The situation hasn't changed, but the support has. Questions. That's the magic of umbrella people. In daily life, we often mistake crowd for company. Many people will surround you on your best days, when you are smiling, successful, and shining. Questions. But those are sunshine days. Sunshine attracts everyone. But storms reveal the truth. During your toughest times, you'll notice who quietly slips away. People who once said questions, "I'll always be there," suddenly become too busy. People who enjoyed your laughter cannot handle your tears. People who celebrated your victories can't tolerate your vulnerabilities. Questions. But umbrella people, they are different. When life becomes messy, they don't run. Instead, they walk toward you holding their umbrella higher. They don't mind getting a little drenched. Questions. Because they care more about protecting you than preserving their own comfort. Imagine a day you were emotionally exhausted. Maybe after a long argument at home, a stressful moment at work. Questions. Or a personal failure that made you question yourself. Everyone around you seemed occupied, unavailable, or disinterested. But one person called just to ask questions. "Are you okay?" They didn't ask for details or explanations. They didn't judge you. They didn't say, "Don't overreact." They simply listened. Questions. That moment of presence felt like an umbrella. Or remember when you were financially struggling and people you trusted started distancing themselves. Yet one friend took you out for tea. Questions. Paid without making you feel embarrassed and encouraged you with warmth. They didn't make you feel small. That gesture, an umbrella. Think of the time when you faced heartbreak. Questions. And most people told you just move on, or it happens. But one person let you cry, let you speak your truth, let you feel what you felt. They weren't trying to fix you. Questions. They were trying to hold you. That presence, an umbrella. Umbrella people do not come with solutions. They come with sincerity. They don't always have answers, but they always have time. Questions. They don't question your storms. They simply stand with you through them. What makes umbrella people special is not what they do for you. It's how they make you feel. Questions. You feel understood without explaining much. You feel cared for without begging for attention. You feel protected without needing to justify your emotions. Questions. The world is full of fair weather relationships. People love you when you're glowing but ignore you when you're breaking. But umbrella people do the opposite. They notice your cracks, questions, your burdens, your silent struggles, and instead of stepping away, they step closer. There will be days when life pours heavily. Loss, failure, betrayal, anxiety, disappointment. During those days, questions, it's easy to lose hope. But one umbrella person can make all the difference. They remind you that you are not alone. They remind you that storms are temporary. Questions. They remind you that you are stronger than you think. In daily interactions, it becomes clearer who these people are. If someone reaches out when you're quiet for a few days, that's an umbrella. Questions. If someone stands by you even when you're not your best self, that's an umbrella. If someone protects your reputation even when you are not around, that's an umbrella. Questions. If someone encourages you and others doubt you, that's an umbrella. Umbrella people are not perfect, but they are rare. They don't always have the right words, but they have the right intentions. Questions. They don't always understand your pain fully, but they never leave you alone with it. Some people will only stay as long as life is convenient for them. Questions. But umbrella people stay even when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or challenging. not because they are obligated, but because they genuinely care. And just as you need umbrella people questions, someone else may need to be their umbrella too. Because umbrellas don't only protect, they connect hearts. They create a bond that weather cannot break. Life will always bring storms, questions, but storms aren't the problem. The absence of umbrellas is. So choose wisely. Choose people who hold the umbrella, not people who run for shelter alone. Choose those who stand with you in the rain. Questions. Those who walk beside you through muddy paths. Those who hold you steady when winds push hard. Because in the end, questions. The people who stay in your storms are the ones who truly deserve to celebrate with you in your sunshine. Umbrella people don't just make your life better. They make your life meaningful. Questions. In a world where everyone is eager to speak, very few truly understand the value of silence. We live in a time where sharing feels easier than thinking, and expressing feels quicker than reflecting. Questions. But every word spoken in vulnerability has the potential to become a weapon in the wrong hands. That is why oversharing, telling your personal pains, secrets, fears, questions, and struggles to people who have not earned the right to hear them, often becomes the fastest route to unnecessary wounds. Oversharing is like giving strangers the map to your emotional house. Questions. Not everyone will enter with good intentions. Some will quietly observe your weak spots. Some will judge your choices. And some, without hesitation, questions, will walk out with your stories only to decorate their conversations with them later. In everyday life, we often overshare without realizing it. Maybe it's because we feel lonely. Questions. Maybe we crave understanding. Maybe we hope someone will genuinely care. But the sad truth is that not everyone you trust with your pain will treat it with dignity. Questions. Imagine you've had a rough day at work. You feel frustrated, unappreciated, exhausted. You decide to share your feelings with a colleague you casually talk to, instead of support. Questions. Days later, you hear your own words repeated in the office, twisted, exaggerated, or passed around as entertainment. What you thought was emotional release became emotional regret. Questions. Or take the example of relationships. Many people, after a breakup or conflict, instantly share everything with random friends, acquaintances, or even on social media. In that moment, it feels relieving, like you're emptying the burden. But later you realize that the people listening weren't trying to help you heal. They were trying to feed their curiosity. Questions. Your heartbreak became their topic over tea, their amusement, their gossip. They remember your tears long after you've healed. Oversharing makes your private life a public playground. Questions. It gives people the power to define your story before you've even finished living it. When you share everything with everyone, you unintentionally give them permission to judge your journey. Questions. And people judge quickly. Without context, without compassion, without understanding your battles. They take your most sensitive moments and evaluate them through their own limited perspectives. Questions. Some judge your actions. Some judge your emotions. Some judge your decisions. And some judge you entirely. Oversharing does not just expose your pain. Questions. It exposes your heart to people who may not know how to hold it. Think of it this way, not every room deserves your presence. Not every ear deserves your truth. Questions. Not every person deserves access to your heart. A daily life example explains this perfectly. Imagine buying an expensive smartphone. Would you allow everyone to handle it? Of course not. Questions. You know some people might be careless, might drop it, might damage it. You are selective because you value it. Yet ironically, questions. We handle our emotions, far more fragile than a device, with so much less care. We hand them out freely, forgetting that some people have slippery hands. Another example, questions. Imagine walking into a crowded room carrying a glass of water filled to the brim. If you bump into someone, the water spills. Now imagine that water is your emotions. Questions. If you walk into every conversation full of unprocessed emotions, they spill everywhere, onto people who don't care, don't help, and don't understand. Oversharing is emotional spilling. Questions. But the biggest danger of oversharing is not just judgment or gossip, it's misunderstanding. When you share your pain without clarity or calmness, people often interpret it incorrectly. Questions. A moment of temporary frustration gets labeled as your character. A moment of weakness gets misread as incompetence. A moment of fear gets seen as failure. And once a misunderstanding is created, questions, correcting it is much harder. You can feel this in everyday interactions. You might share your stressful situation with someone impulsively, questions, only to realize later that the person misunderstands your intention. Instead of feeling supported, you start feeling exposed. Instead of feeling lighter, you feel heavier. Questions. Oversharing also drains your self-respect. The more you reveal your wounds casually, the more you start depending on external validation. You begin to wait for people to comfort you. Questions. Instead of learning how to comfort yourself, you begin to rely on emotional reactions from others, instead of building emotional strength within. Questions. This is why emotional maturity teaches you something powerful. Your pain is a treasure. Don't hand it to people who treat it like trash. Consider a simple daily life incident. Questions. You have an argument with a family member, and in anger, you tell a friend everything. A week later, you and your family member resolve your issues. Questions. But your friend still views them negatively because of what you overshared. Your relationship healed, but your friend's perceptions didn't. Oversharing created unnecessary complications. Questions. Not everyone needs to know everything about you. Not everyone deserves to know everything about you. Your struggles, your battles, your fears, your tears, they are not public property. Questions. They are part of your emotional identity. Share them only with people who have shown care, consistency, and character. Questions. Oversharing is like leaving your home unlocked. Not everyone entering will protect it. Oversharing is like shouting your wounds in a marketplace. Not everyone listening wants to heal you. Questions. Oversharing is like handing your diary to strangers. Not everyone reading will respect the pages. Protect your story. Protect your heart. Protect your peace. Questions. Because oversharing doesn't just make you vulnerable. It makes you vulnerable to the wrong people. And the wrong people can damage even the strongest hearts. Be thoughtful. Be selective. Questions. Not every listener is a healer. Some listeners are simply spectators. Questions. There is a beautiful strength hidden in silence, a strength that most people overlook because the world is too loud. Everywhere you turn, there is noise. Noise of opinions, noise of assumptions, questions, noise of judgments, noise of expectations. And when you are hurt, your first instinct is often to run to someone and express everything. You hope that sympathy will soothe the pain. But the truth is, questions. Sympathy can comfort temporarily, while silence heals permanently. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is therapy. Silence is not weakness. Silence is wisdom. Silence is not avoiding questions. Silence is understanding. Many people misunderstand silence. They think being quiet means suppressing emotions. But true silence is not suppression. It is introspection. Questions. It is the space where your heart speaks to you in a language only you can understand. It is in silence that you hear your own thoughts clearly. Questions. Without the noise of other people's opinions drowning your truth. When we rush to share our pain with others, we often end up confused, not cured. Why? Questions. Because too many voices can make your heart more chaotic. One person will advise you to be strong. Another will tell you to let go. Someone else might tell you to forget it. Questions. While another might encourage you to take revenge. And suddenly your mind becomes louder than your pain. This is why silence is healing, because it removes the crowd of unnecessary advice. Questions. Imagine you're in a room full of people talking loudly. You're trying to listen to your favorite song playing softly on your phone. No matter how amazing the song is, questions. You can't hear it because the noise around you is overpowering. The moment everyone leaves, the same song becomes clearer, more beautiful, more emotional. Your mind works exactly like that. Questions. Your inner wisdom, your song, is always there, but you can hear it only when you remove the external noise. Daily life gives beautiful reminders of this. Questions. Think about a moment when you were extremely stressed. You lay in bed, turned off your phone, shut your eyes, and allowed yourself to just breathe. After a few minutes, you felt calmer. Questions. Not because the problem disappeared, but because the silence allowed your mind to realign itself. Or remember a time when you were angry or upset. If you reacted immediately, questions, you probably regretted it later. But the times you stayed silent, waited, and calmed yourself, your response was wiser, more mature, more thoughtful. Silence has that power. Questions. It transforms reaction into response. Silence is like a reset button for your heart. When you sit quietly with your pain instead of sharing it instantly, something magical happens. Questions. Your tears become teachers. Your emotions settle like dust. Your mind becomes clearer. You begin to understand what truly hurt you, what it means, and what direction you must take next. Sympathy. Questions. On the other hand, is comforting but temporary. When someone shows sympathy, you feel supported for a moment. But once the conversation is over, the pain returns and often questions. You feel just as lost as before. Sympathy is like a warm blanket on a cold night. It feels good, but it doesn't change the weather. Silence, however, is like learning to build a fire. Questions. It warms you from within, so you don't depend on external sources of comfort. Take the example of a child who falls and gets hurt. The first reaction is to cry loudly. But then, after a few minutes, questions, even without anyone holding them, the child slowly calms down. They sit quietly, breathe, and eventually start playing again. The child did not need a long discussion. Silence did the healing. Questions. As adults, we forget the natural healing ability we once had. We think talking more will fix things. Sometimes it does. But often, talking too soon or too much only breaks us further. Questions. Here's another daily life example. When your phone hangs or freezes, pressing more buttons doesn't fix it. It makes it worse. What fixes it is restarting, turning everything off for a moment. Questions. Silence is exactly that kind of restart for the mind. People will give sympathy, but sympathy often comes with opinions, judgments, assumptions, and sometimes even misunderstandings. Questions. Someone may mean well, but still say something careless that hurts you more. That's why relying on sympathy can be risky. Silence doesn't misunderstand you. Silence doesn't judge you. Questions. Silence doesn't compare your pain. Silence doesn't interrupt your emotions. Silence simply listens to you, because silence is you. Reflection, which naturally follows silence, questions, is how healing deepens. When you reflect, you begin to see yourself not as a victim, but as a learner. You begin to notice your strength, your patterns, your triggers, your tendencies. Questions. You begin to see what the pain is trying to teach you. Reflection turns emotional wounds into emotional wisdom. A beautiful example. After an argument with someone you love, questions. If you stay silent for a while, you understand not only what they said but also what you felt. You begin to see the situation from both sides. You become calmer, kinder, wiser. Questions. And when you finally speak, your words create healing instead of more hurt. Silence is not an escape from pain. It is the birthplace of clarity. Questions. It is the space where you learn to make peace with what happened, where your heart reorganizes itself, where your soul breathes freely. Sympathy can hold your hand. Questions. But silence helps you stand on your feet. Both are important, but one gives temporary relief while the other gives lasting strength. In the end, questions. Silence and reflection do something no amount of sympathy can do. They empower you. They help you understand your pain deeply instead of depending on others to soothe it. Questions. When you learn to sit with yourself quietly, you become your own healer. And that strength stays with you forever.